questions while we're here.
All right,
So,
lovely.
okay, I've got some, wait, I think I forwarded some questions across to you, so I'm going to ask them you now. Okay. You're a mum
Okay.
too and driven to help other women, but how do you make time for you and why is that important?
So yes, I think I've really, over the years, grown to value more and more the time for myself. And it started off as just little slivers of time, really. And from there, I just got more and more militant about it. And
Mhm.
oh, my
No, it's
phone's
okay, it's
ringing.
okay, it's okay, go take it, go take it.
Hello? I don't know who that
It's okay, it's
is.
okay. Okay, so go on. So you've been more
Should I just start
militant.
again with that question?
Yeah, no, no, it's fine. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, just carry on.
Okay. Um, so what I found works for me really well is to do my practice in the morning and to have some time that's carved out for myself first thing in the morning. Because often what I find is the day is so busy that even if I've got really good intentions for, carving out that time for myself
Mhm.
during the day, that can often get railroaded. So for me, I found that having that time for myself in the morning means that I've definitely managed to carve that out.
Yes.
I think I've also started to get better at saying no to stuff.
Yeah. I always find
You
it
know,
it's so important to get in the morning though, because shit does come, doesn't it? And it's like I've got to do this, and this, and this, and I've got to balance this plate. I've got to do this and that for the kids. Like today, this evening, I've got dog training class. I've got Scarlett's got a party, Halloween party. I'm sure are you going Halloween? Are you going trick or treating this year, or are you no?
yeah,
Are you going
I think this is might be his last
the
year,
last
so it's
one?
like make
Yeah.
the most of
Maybe let's
it.
do it. So I think it's just kind of like we've got so many things that can just creep up, and it might be like again the phone rings and like the other week we had a phone call and it was my cat who disappeared before lockdown had suddenly was fine and
Oh my
had been
gosh.
she'd been literally living feral for about 3 years and had been found and we managed to she's got with a very very close family because I've had another boxer since then, so I've got two boxers, and boxers, if you know them, are just ridiculous with cats. So I'm like, what do? I don't want this cat to go to someone that I don't know and know that it's going to be loved. So every time now, if I don't know, if when you go down Penparky, if you go down Penparky Hill, there's some little houses on the side, and
Yeah.
Rocky is like this, like little lights in the window, and she's looking out, and she's fine. But like, it's just like you
Oh,
just don't know what each day is going to come. Like, it could be like in my life, it's like all of a sudden, it's like I've got to go here, I've got to do that, I've got to do this for the kids. But if I take that time in the morning, sometimes I'm like, it's done. That's another thing ticked off. And if it doesn't happen in the morning, I've got to think to myself, okay, maybe it's Lindsay's class that I'm going to, and that's come hell or high water. That's the class I'm going to that class, and I'm
yes.
prioritizing myself for that hour or 45 minutes or however long it might be. Or I booked a retreat and I'm going to go, even if I get those. I join. I always kind of say I'm going to do something, and then as I get closer to it, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to do it. And a lot of people say that, like they get there and they're like, yeah, 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 and then they're like, oh, I'm not sure. And then once I go, I'm like, why, why did I have any like self doubt about this? Like, why did I think like I couldn't do it? Or, it's just that whole like, oh, I've got to actually do it. And then once we do it, we're like, I feel so empowered by having done it.
Yes,
Hmm.
absolutely. And I think you get to, you go along, you meet the people there, you realize they're lovely, they're not actually eyeballing your every movement and judging you. It's,
Yeah, no,
everyone's focusing on their own self and
absolutely.
has a really nice community around it. Um,
Would
and I
you
think
say in your yoga, would you say like what kind of, if I went to one of your classes, what can I expect to like, what would you, is it like a little bit of mindfulness? Is it a little bit of breath work? Is it more flexibility focused? Like what would I expect if I was to come to one of your classes?
So yeah, I would say I try and include a little bit of. So there's different branches of yoga within the kind of big umbrella of yoga.
Hmm.
So in all my classes, I will always try and include the asana, so the physical postures but also, like you say, the breath work, meditation, and yoga nidra, which is a sort of deep relaxation practice. It's
Hmm.
sometimes called yogic sleep, and it's a
Okay.
guided practice where we're basically coming into a very deep state of rest. So it's
Yeah.
super, super nourishing for the nervous system.
Yeah.
So I always include that within my classes. And my Tuesday class is more of a kind of a flow with then longer held postures at the
Yeah.
end.
I think
And
we're so much of our time in a sympathetic central nervous system state, aren't we?
yeah,
And not enough time
absolutely.
in the parasympathetic. So that
Yes.
actually just slowing everything down, and that can just be slowing your heart rate down, slowing your breathing down. It can be like we just don't do it. So actually going to something can, I'm sure people just feel amazing after going. And I know that anybody that I've spoken to will always sing your praises and just I feel like relaxed. I feel like I've been away for a week, and like I feel amazing after going. And I think, that's testament not only to you as a coach, but it's that making that time, isn't it, for carving that time out for yourself and how you're feeling on the inside as well as the outside.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think for people, just as a note, for anyone who does, I think there's a lot of people who actually have a lot of trouble slowing down.
Yeah.
And the thought of slowing
Me.
down feels scary. And
Exactly
so
do that.
it's, just to, really be gentle with ourselves in that process. And,
Yeah.
for some people, if you're a very go, go, go person, if you're someone who's maybe not used to spending time with your own emotions and your thoughts, or for some people, if they grew up in a home that when things were quiet and still, it meant, shit was about to kick off
Yeah,
quite
yeah,
soon.
yeah. They find it hard.
It can actually feel like very threatening to their nervous system to
Hmm.
come into that space where everything's still and quiet.
Hmm.
Um, so for people who maybe are thinking, oh, I'd like to try yoga, but actually I find it really hard to slow down,
Hmm.
I'd say, there is start with a flow class that kind of moves it through your body to begin with and slowly, slowly eases you into that kind of state of slowing down
And
and allowing the nervous system to settle.
I'm sure I having had 4 kids and having had like natural births with all of them, it's that breathing. So I remember when I first had Zach, I was like, no, like, and I was like, brace, and I was like, it's so painful, and I was like, actually, I just need to breathe. I just need to
Yeah,
relax. And as soon as I kind of did, I did no hypnotherapy. I didn't do anything because I was quite young. I was a bit naive as to what was coming, but I just focused on my breath and I did this weird, like, I had not been to any classes. So like, I think if I'd have been to one of your classes, I would have known what to have done. But I was a surfboard and I was on my surfboard in my brain. And then like, I was waiting for a wave to come. And then we just kind of like chill and wait for another wave to come. And it was just
yes.
my breathing and just focusing on like taking myself to somewhere else and not feeling so frightened by the fact that my body was the more I fought the pain, the worse
Yeah,
it got. So I
absolutely.
quickly learned that as soon as I allowed everything to kind of open and relax, the
Yeah.
more that facilitated my labor and he came quicker and less painful for breathing. And I think just breathing can get massively overlooked as to how important it is. Like we all
Yeah.
think, oh, I what's she on about? Like I'm breathing normally, but actually most of us, and I find this, in Pilates and strength training, most of us actually only shallow breathe. So we just do a lot of short breaths. And when I actually start to talk about diaphragmic breathing or just actually being able to do nice, slow and controlled braces, that people are just suddenly like, wow, like it, it's breathing's powerful.
It really, really is.
Mm,
And it opens up a whole new world of possibility, really, because once you, like you say, once you're working in harmony with your breath,
hmm.
not only does it open up things physically a lot, but also emotionally and for your nervous system. It really is the key to kind of bringing it all together, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And I think
And I think
anybody, go ahead, sorry.
Oh no, that's right, lovely. I was just going to say, and I think a lot of the, in our day-to-day lives, we're kind of like Mr. Burns on the
Yes,
computer.
absolutely. Oh, this and this all the time.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And these, a lot. of sometimes we end up kind of straining to breathe from here rather than
Yeah.
allowing that real nice 360 through the whole of the ribs down into the belly
Yeah.
and the pelvic floor. And that link between the breath and the pelvic floor, and the diaphragm as this kind of amazing massager of all of the internal
Hmm.
organs and things. Um, when that's kind of solidified, well, not solidified, that's not the right word, but
Yeah,
when
but
that
when
is,
it comes together, that love, without the Valsalva, I'm not going to tell anybody to do a Valsalva maneuvers.
no!
No, no, no. But we want to, like, I think a lot of people, they forget about the importance of the diaphragm. They forget about
Yeah,
their pelvic floor sitting at the bottom of the core. And one of the,
yeah,
people might say, "I'm coming to see you, Beth, because I've got a weak back." And I'm like, actually, it might be, weak ankles. It might be a weak core. It could be weak pelvic floor. It doesn't always necessarily mean, it might be we need to do more posterior chain work. But I think we're all guilty of thinking like, actually, I've got pain here, but it actually could come from here, and like self-diagnosing what's wrong with us, or what we should do. And actually, I think with pelvic floor, we forget about the importance of the foundation, really, of the core, isn't it? The pelvic floor.
absolutely. And how, we can scale it right back to something as simple as the breath, and
Hmm.
finding a beautiful, complete breath will
Hmm.
reinvigorate and bring your pelvic floor alive again. And I think,
Absolutely.
especially for people who maybe have got pelvic floor tension, maybe they're having pain with sex, maybe they've got this sort of hypertonic pelvic floor, just finding that movement with the breath, where we've got this beautiful kind of synergistic movement with the
Yeah.
diaphragm,
Yeah.
just something as simple as reactivating that can be so, so, so powerful.
Yeah, I think a lot of the women that I deal with, they will come and say, actually, I've had issues with my pelvic floor. I've had a partial prolapse. I've had, some people have prolapses in different areas. And so I think, different times, some people might have had a diagnosis that they had a prolapse 20 years ago, and they'll say back, and I'm like, well, actually, a lot might have changed since then. And I think it's important that you think, if you're sitting and squatting and you're doing day-to-day movements, that, and just suddenly think, actually, now I'm not going to do any exercise at all. It's actually, you need to be able to do functional exercise, isn't it? Until you're old. And I used to see, my dad was great when before he broke his hip, he'd be off and about, and I think actually before he had a stroke. And that's another story again, isn't it? I think, of like the importance of exercise and the importance of the
Movement.
effect of movement, and on hypertension, on cardiovascular disease, on diabetes, and I think we can think about our muscles and the size of our muscles, but the impact of stress, and the
Yeah.
impact of how stress can literally decrease your life. I think so many of us live with stress, or
Yeah.
we're stressing about what we're doing or what we're not doing, or what we should be doing, or what mortgage payment is this month, or and we had our mortgage thing come through. It's like, it's gone up again, like the rate's gone up again, and I'm like,
Yeah.
if I feel that, I get like everybody else is feeling that. So I think it's how the time that we do take for us. I think it's important that we do think, actually, what is going to benefit me, not just today, because I've forgotten, like, I'm somebody that's forgotten what I did last week or the week before. So I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
the
Too.
mood, maybe like you weren't motivated last week, but if you ask yourself how you feel today, you've forgotten, but your body will remember what you did last week. So if you turned up to your yoga class last week and you did that consistently for a year, your body is going to feel, and your mental health, even if you might not necessarily, I think we want instant results, don't we, sometimes? And I think if we look long term, and like, actually, if by doing all those things over a period of time, my pelvic floor is better, my lower back pain is better, my mood is better, my sleep is better, my sex life is better, whatever it might be. So I think it's kind of thinking outside of the window of just thinking like of a number on the scale.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. And I think like you're saying, with daily life being so stressful, it is really crucial to have these
So,
practices in place.
Halloween, mum, Halloween. Is he
Yeah,
there?
I've got Bish knocking on the door. I'm just going to go
5
and open
minutes,
the door
Bridge.
for him.
5 minutes. My kids are older now, so Scarlett's got a party to go to, and I'm pretty sure she's going to tell me there's no alcohol, but we'll see. But Blake is all about the like how he wants to, he probably want to go he'd probably want to go trick or treating for about 2 hours if he could. We've kind of agreed that it'll be an hour. But like last year was absolutely horrified at what he brought back. Like no, it's normal, and I try not to do the little like that's just making me feel sick. Like it's because it's just like because it's all like the sugary like
The
glucose
ones
kind
that
of
stick to your teeth.
yeah, that's what because they're cheap, right? So the kids they're not going to give them chocolates, so they give them, and I'm like that's just like not yeah. Enjoy it. I'm like enjoy it, bless you, but like yeah, give me the EBGBs. Like good job, but yeah, go for a run or something afterwards. I try not to push on the kids because I think if anything, like I'm just a bit of an embarrassment because they're like I post a lot of stuff online. And like I don't know, probably can squat. No, I'm not going to say that, but like I think I'm just embarrassing. So I think I think a lot of women are like, "You're great, Beth. You're empowering." I'm like, "Yeah," but my kids, they're just like they'd rather I just like went under a rock or something. So I probably have to go and watch him from afar.
As parents, we're never going to be cool to our kids, are we? That's it.
No,
I mean, I used to
absolutely
try and
not.
get Fish to do yoga with me, and he'd do it when he was little.
Yeah,
But
but
now
now
he's just
no.
like, Mum, I'm not a hippie.
I'm
So
not doing that. I'm not
some
doing
reason
that.
he thinks you've got to be a hippie to do yoga, which is definitely not true.
Yeah,
But
I know.
yeah,
I definitely feel though. I wish that I could have my mum because my mum had a really dysmorphic um, look at her body weight. At her, she suffered with depression. She suffered with her like physics. She was always on a diet. She was on like back in the day, it was like Cambridge diet. It's like she
yeah,
used to do Atkins. She did them all. And I just wanted to say to her, like, you just need to like walk a bit more, mum. You just need to do something that you enjoy, mum. You need to take the pressure off, mum. And I wish that I could go back to my mum. I'm hoping that maybe the kids will think I'm uncool now, but what I do, they'll see the method to my madness. Like, oh, they'll be like, oh, mum used to do that. Maybe we should do that. Or maybe they'll just, I think kids don't do what we tell them. They just learn by what we do, right? So,
they absorb it all like little sponges.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think I know there's definitely practices that my mum did when I was younger, which I do now, like healthy, well-being practices that I
Yeah,
definitely didn't kick in until probably I was in my 30s. But
really. Yeah.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
complete opposite. So I'm definitely like, and I think as a psychologist dream because like mum bless her she was very active. She'd have me climbing up mountains, she'd have me up climbing up Snowdon. She was definitely not, but she didn't exercise enough for her mental health. And I think when she had a drop with her mental health, I always kind of knew because she'd stare out of windows was one of the things that she used to do, or she'd
yeah,
struggle with her sleep, and that mixed in with the menopause, kind of like, and she worked nights because she was a nurse, so the concoction together kind of
yeah.
made her, it was a massive thing to her. So I think exercise for me helps me like, Idris wakes me up. I'm not going to lie, like he still breastfeeds and he sleeps in my bed, and I'm like, everybody, my foot, like, sorry Tony if you're listening, but he'll be like, is he sleeping in his bed now? And I'm like, no, like there's no rules. With children, there's no rules. I have lots of rules when it comes to exercise and fitness, but none with children. And I just think, yeah, I think it's so important that that with it, what I do, essentially, it helps my sleep, it helps my mood, and I just think it can help. Yoga, it doesn't always have to just be an aesthetic thing. Weightlifting doesn't have to be an aesthetic thing. It can massively help our pelvic floor. It can massively help, and it can inspire. Like I think someone might come to one of your classes and say, "I love Lindsey." And then they're like, oh, who's this Lindsey? Maybe I'll go. And then they go and they're like, why have I not been before? Why have I not exercised before? Because you're inspiring people in what you do. And like, you might not always see that. You might not always get told that, but I know that 100% that you do. And I think
Oh,
it's
that's
important to own that.
and
Yeah.
likewise. And I think maybe something that we both have in common is that we really um, focus on like moving your body for the joy of it.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
you deserve whatever your shape, size, age, whatever, we all deserve to feel good in our bodies, to move them, just because it's frigging amazing to be
Yeah,
alive and be in a body.
absolutely.
And,
And you're a long
to,
time dead. I know that from my parents. It's like, and it, when my parents were like, when my dad was ill or when my mum passed away, you just like, you give anything for health. Like when my dad was, like my dad had just before he passed, he had like atrial fibrillation, and I just like, I'll just give anything. Like, what can I do? And there's nothing you can do in those
yeah,
situations. There is nothing that you can do when you're facing these big ailments in your health. You've just got to go with it, and you've got to accept. And I've learned you have to accept the past, and you have to just do what you can do, focus on what you can do. But equally, I think it's for me, exercise has helped me to accept that situation. But also, I think it kind of helps me to think, I don't want that. I want to live as long as I can and as strong as I can. um,
yes,
and being a carer for dad, I don't want my parents to care for me either, my children to care for me. Maybe that will happen. Genetics play a big part in everything, but I definitely think if you focus on what we can do, what we can't do, or what we can't control, it makes a massive difference.
absolutely. And shifting that narrative away from like yoga or exercise to all try and look a certain way or be to try and fit into this cookie cutter mold,
Yeah,
and shifting that over to, like you're saying, empowering yourself to make choices that mean you're going to feel as good as possible and live a life that's vibrant for as long as possible.
absolutely. And I think, I just think it's so important we all know that, weightlifting or exercise in general will, it will help to improve osteoporosis, it will help to improve heart health, it will improve it help to preserve lean muscle mass. But it's how we are. If all this is working fine as well, we need, it's a combination of the two, isn't it? Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. I think I saw some like stat somewhere that was saying that when we're like extremely, extremely stressed, it's the equivalent to like smoking a whole load of cigarettes a day
yeah,
for our actual physical health.
yeah,
So
yeah,
having really, and life is absolutely bloody bonkers sometimes, isn't
yeah.
it? So we've really got to be proactive about
what we
grasping
what we
those
bring in,
things
absolutely.
and bringing in those threads that nourish us and give us energy, make us feel good on all different levels.
Absolutely. And I think, if I can support you in any way, and I think it's nice to be able to have such a fabulous kind of arena in Aberystwyth where we have so many like different, we've got the mountains around us, we've got the sea, so we've got like paddle boarding, we've got like climbing at Snowdon, we've got amazing yoga teachers, we've got strength and conditioning, and I think there's lots of people, certainly in my arena, where they're like up and coming, like they might be in their 20s and I think it's nice sometimes to be able to have a coach that can say, actually, I understand about pelvic floor health, I understand about some of the stresses and anxiety and the madness that as a mum that we're kind of juggle, and that you can feel that you can relate to and talk to.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's something important, isn't it? Because I often people say to people like, there is a yoga class out there for you, and it may be mine, or it may not be mine.
mm,
It's about finding the teacher and the class that clicks for you,
absolutely.
inspires you, and works for you.
But you
And
could do the same class as somebody else, but it wouldn't be the same class because it's you, and it's how you deliver that, and you're teaching everything. It can really make a massive change to somebody, and their willingness to be able to flip the switch and to change their mindset and to help them to be consistent and help them to feel supported and help them to just to feel empowered, which is, I think, I know for me is one of the reasons that I continue to show up, because it just empowers me to feel happier and healthier and more in control of my day to day, just of what I'm doing. I think, otherwise, if I didn't have that anchor, I would feel a little bit lost.
yeah, I think
Hmm.
there's so much. It's almost like a little mini version of life on your mat and in your practice, isn't
Yeah,
it? And I think
yeah,
we learn things within that, and techniques that make us more resilient, that help us feel better about ourselves, that help us learn to navigate maybe things that we did find really difficult, but we persevered.
absolutely. Yeah,
In the end, we triumphed over it. And you take that then out into your daily life, don't you? And feel
absolutely.
that it's, they call it, I think, yoga off the mat. Or
Yeah,
taking
you
your
feel
practice off
stronger
the
and
mat.
you feel more empowered by the things that you do on the mat, and that belief system of like, actually I did do that and I can achieve that and I'm consistent at that, and that creates an identity of who I am and who I can relate to, or who I feel that that my actions give me new meaning.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I think as you're building on your practice, and I'd love to ask you actually about strength practice for people with pelvic floor dysfunction, but when you're building that strength, I think it really anchors in on such a tangible level. Like, I am a strong person.
Yeah,
I
I think
can
a lot
do
of people are just
things.
frightened. So like most people might say to me, I'm genetically overweight, or um, and I think, I'm really weak upper body. And I think the language that we use in the first instance is powerful. So like
Yeah,
how we identify ourselves and how we talk to ourselves. And actually, if you said, something, if I said to you, I'm feeling really fat and I'm feeling really weak and I feel like my upper body's really rubbish and like I've got no strength, you'd be like, Bethan, no, like you're really strong, and you would definitely be like, we talk to ourselves in a way that we would never speak to somebody else. So I think it's really important to think about how your language and how you identify, and then because that really damages your how you can progress. So
yeah,
you literally are closing down progress because you suddenly feel like, I'm sorry, my crazy dog. I'm limiting my self belief here because I can't. I'm weak and I'm not. So I think just little by little. So today I'm going to start a body weight exercise and I'm going to slowly start to build that up, and then that gains confidence. And then I think if you're carrying a child, sorry, my crazy dog, Scarlett, if you're carrying a child, this is mad. This is like family though, right? This is how it is. Like, this is normal. But I think if you are believing all these things and you're not, a lot of the time it's fear that holds us back, or it's like, actually I'm fear of failure. But
yeah,
if you just slowly build little by little, and you can do something, it's a body weight movement. It's it's picking up a dumbbell and feeling comfortable and confident and able to complete that in a certain rep range for a certain weight, and feel like, yes, I did that. That builds, so that that stress, that worry that you can't do that it everything just slowly starts to build. And those teaching points, I would definitely say, for me, go to a class, go
yeah.
to get a personal trainer, because if you are taught from the beginning, it's so much easier to then continue to progress, where sometimes it can
Yeah,
take
you
a lot
build like these
longer.
strong foundations.
Yeah, it can take so much longer to work with somebody that has maybe been training themselves for 10 years on and off, and they've built lots of poor practices around form or breathing. So get a
Yeah,
trainer, go to a class, get some support, and build slowly. And just, yes, get a training plan so that you can see progress. But I think in my job, it's very
yeah,
much um, before and after, and it's all visual. Where actually, I think it's just
yeah,
feeling like I'm stronger. I feel more empowered. I feel more capable. I feel less lower back pain, and start to build on that. And in relation to pelvic floor health, I think, as I said, we're carrying children, and a lot of that we do without thinking about it. So we're picking up, we're scooping, and we're feeling pressure maybe on our pelvic floor. But when you keep your body into aligned movement, where you're thinking about your breath work, you're engaging the pelvic floor, and you're able to hold and create that pressure through the pelvic floor. For most people, and I can put a link under this, that of studies that have shown that actually can have a big impact on improving people's pelvic floor, improving people's mental health, improving strength, and that can help to offset so many things as we age. My crazy dog. Don't get a boxer.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that
Don't get a boxer.
yeah, They're very cute though. Got
But no,
cute
they're mad.
faces.
Like, I'll wait 2 seconds.
I
I'm
think,
just going to go 2 seconds. I'm coming back. Wait, shit.
all right, lovely.
Memphis, come here. Come here. I'm going to bring her in with me. You watch now. She'll drop you off. Come here. Come and lie down here. Go on. Sorry, darling. I'm back. She's here. She's here. She wants me. She does.
Oh, little
She's here.
cutie.
Yeah, she wants me.
Is
What were
she
you going
happy
to say?
now? She's curled up
Yeah,
maybe.
she's happy now. Like, I think Jason's the baby's asleep, and she just wants me.
A little bit of fuss.
Yeah, yeah. But I do think
Um,
just to slowly build up, but to go
yeah,
and get some help, to go and get some support from a trainer, because it's,
yeah,
it could be like a press up. It could be that people just try and do a full press up instead of actually having those cues to how to, like you talked about, layering it. So like
yeah,
to start at
yeah,
level
yeah,
1, find level 2, level 3, level 4, without thinking like,
yeah.
actually, I'm going to go straight to level 4, and then not being able to control it or do that, and then feeling like, oh, I can't do that, so I give up.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of power in that sort of regress to progress sometimes, isn't there?
Yeah.
It's like, why back, suss out your, if there's maybe people are using sort of compensations and, core compensation patterns that aren't helpful. And if you've got a trainer that can
Oh yeah,
kind of
it
identify
could
that
be
early on for you.
it could be something like a lateral raise. So a lateral raise, you've got lots of synergists here that say your trapezius, which is a bigger muscle. So I'm going to let her out. So come on then. Hold on. Oh no, I can't. It's shut. Wait. You're going to have to stay. Come here. The gates are open. I can't. So I was just going to say, so it could be that the movement then becomes a hunch through the shoulder, as
Yeah,
opposed to the lateral delt being worked. So the
sure.
synergists are working harder than the prime mover. So
Yeah,
it could just be that somebody is suddenly like, yeah, I'm lifting this great, but I'm actually doing the completely wrong movement, and
yes,
they're not getting the full benefit from the exercise. So it could be core, it could be, global, it could be a vast array of different exercises. But I definitely think sometimes it's just having that form, that cue of coaching, and just saying, actually, draw the shoulder down, lift,
yeah,
and then they're like, I've got it. Or I could say, close your eyes, do the exercise with your eyes closed, and just focus on that one muscle, and then they'll be like, actually, I can feel it, I can feel that muscle. So sometimes it's really powerful having a trainer to just help you identify the prime mover, the prime muscle that we're trying to target,
yeah,
and also being able to do a posture check and be like, actually, maybe one of the reasons that you've got lower back pain is the fact that we need to, we could bring in these movements, and then that will help eliminate some of the pain that you have by just bringing in some of these alternative exercises. Because a lot of the time we're in this seated and sagittal plane, and we don't
yeah.
do enough lateral movements, and we don't yeah, and we don't. So I think it's kind of just making people think about their behaviors and the exercises that they're doing.
Yeah, yeah. And it's those little tweaks, like you say, isn't it? That somebody might be putting in so much effort
Oh
and
yeah,
showing up and, and doing the work, but having somebody to just give you those little
just little
tweaks
minimal
and
little
make
tweaks.
it all kind of fall into
And it suddenly
place.
feels like, actually, now I understand, and now I can start to you might need to drop the weight a little bit. And I think women are definitely not as ego led as men sometimes in the gym can be. It's just about how heavy you can lift. And I think
Yeah,
sometimes it is important that you just kind of think, it doesn't matter what you lift, it doesn't matter how strong you are, it doesn't matter, all of those things aren't important. It's like, I say that about people that might say, well, I had a C-section, or I had to have pain relief on the bit. I'm like, you don't get an award at the end of it. What works for you works for
there's no
you.
medal.
No,
Yeah,
like, and there's no reward for doing, like, if you can do 10 pull-ups, or if you can do no pull-ups, there's no, it is how it makes you feel, how, enabled for you to say, actually, I've got less pain and I feel stronger and I feel more capable, and I'm going to offset, hopefully for me, heart attacks, strokes, and some of the other nasties that are lurking in the non-modifiable aspects of my genetics. So
Yes.
so I think we've all got things that I talked about that we can't control, and we have
Yeah.
got things that we can. So I think it's important that you think about, actually, I can't do anything about these things. So I'm not going to focus on that or focus on the things I can't do, but focus on what I can. And
Yeah.
that's
There's a lot
that
of power to
mindset.
be found there, in I think, isn't there? That
Yeah,
feeling of really taking ownership of your life and creating the best that you can with what
yeah,
you've
and
got.
just not having to feel like I need to be at level 5. I can just be at level 1, and I've
Yeah.
got plenty of time to get to
Yeah.
level 2 and to level 3, and I will get there. But there's no rush, and there's no reward, and
Yes.
there's no Memphis. There's nothing else that is going to. The only thing that I need to do is just be patient and kind to myself, and maybe speak to myself in the way that I would speak to somebody else, because we're so
Yes.
used to being
A
so
friend
tough on
often.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
get it, sometimes, but I think a lot of times people think that they're going to have a personal trainer and it's a woman, and I'm going to be like a narcissist, or, and I think, I'm definitely driven, but that comes from my own drive, because it makes me feel good. And, when I do things to make me feel stronger, it makes me feel better. And it's not necessarily the aesthetic side of things come secondary to the practices that we do, the stretching, the Pilates that I do, that it all kind of interlinks to make me feel less incidents of pain. And I think it's and certainly getting into my 40s, I think so many people that I know are having little ups, having lower back pain, just things. I start to see the shift in some of the things that we're facing in our 30s,
Yeah.
40s and 50s, rather than I did in my
Yeah.
20s and 30s. So I think it was all about like childbirth and that kind of. I have just relived that, but I was on my own there. But I think, again, having a baby at 44, that's testament to some of the lifestyle decisions that I'm making, and probably didn't choose to have Idris. It wasn't something that we planned, but I think it's like a blessing, and it's just testament to some of the decisions that I've made, might just be eating better, moving more,
Oh,
eating more nutritious
extra
food.
stuff,
Yeah,
just those little
yeah.
choices.
Those little choices over time, just made me. And I wasn't trying for Idris. So, I mean, the chances of having Idris were like winning the lottery. So I feel like that's just testament to my body being in a good, happy place.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
I'm not everybody can, not everybody wants children, not everybody can have children, and that doesn't make me, Memphis, come here. That doesn't, again, there's no awards, it's personal choice. And there's certain things that we can't do anything about, and there's certain things that we can do things about. So I think it is important, whatever your history is, whatever you're facing at the moment, that you just kind of think about ways to help you cope, and not just think about, actually, I feel overwhelmed and do nothing. Have the courage to do something.
It's easy to get into that space, isn't it? And I think part of the difficulty when we really need these practices, sometimes when we are in that state of overwhelm, it's so challenging
Yes.
to
To
actually
do anything, because
do
yeah,
anything. So really keeping those little small steps then, I think, is so crucial. And again, coming back to that thing of community, maybe it's a group, or maybe it's just one person that you can
yeah,
say, I want to do this. Do you want to do this with me? And whether
yeah,
it's like meeting up to go for a walk, going to one of your classes, doing a bit of yoga, whatever it might be, having that sort of little bit
yeah.
of
There's someone
support
that's
can be
there.
a game
Yeah.
changer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even when I was in classes, I was supposed to do classes, or if I know if I'm doing like one of my online sessions with somebody, I might be the only person that person interacts with that day. So they might
Yeah.
be like doing work. They might not actually necessarily speak to anybody. So I think it's powerful, that how to create connections, and sometimes, and to reach out to people. Are It frightens me on social media sometimes that we're mute. So
Yeah.
people don't like, and I quite often say this, like, share, comment on, if you see a local business, a local person, try and get involved in, because they're offering a service, and it might not always be for you, but even if you share that, if you like that, that's powerful in being able to get help to support that local business or that local company, and for other people to benefit from that. And I'm bound to say that because it's part of my job. But I think it is key. It is important, because you might not necessarily, it might not be necessary that something you want to do today, but somebody else might benefit from that. And I think as a local community, we all need to kind of support each other and encourage our little amazing town to flourish and grow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. And yeah, by sharing stuff, there's also a chance that someone who really needs that is going to see it and
See
be
it.
like, "Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
just
because
right
so
for me."
many times with people will say like, "I just stumbled across you." Like somebody shared something on Facebook, or and they're like, "I'm so pleased that I joined. I'm loving it." And I'm like, "It is. It's just sometimes it's an action, or it's somebody that you might recommend somebody, or recommend them on Facebook. Allow people to, if you go to Lindsay's class, please, make sure that you share that message out loud and proud, because it helps to support Lindsay, it helps to support me, but also that we are where we don't speak, as I said, that kind of mentality of like, I'm okay, are you okay, I'm okay, and not actually talking about some of the things that are real and affecting us, and limiting us in our self-belief and our progress, and how that's going to have long-term effects on our physical and mental health.
Absolutely. And I think it can feel really scary sometimes for people to open up, because I say to people sometimes, like, if one of your friends, I'm not saying like every Bob and Joe on the street, obviously, if someone says you're all right when you're just walking past them, it's a different kind of interaction, isn't it? But,
Yeah,
if one of your friends says to you, "How are you doing? Are you okay?" And if you're not actually, then share that with them. Don't be
absolutely. I've
like,
got
as a
one
friend,
friend,
I
she'll
really want
know.
my friends to feel they can do
I think sometimes you have
that.
that one
And oh,
friend,
sorry.
don't you? You have that one friend sometimes that knows by
Yeah.
looking at you. They don't. You can say whatever you say, and they
Yeah.
know. But those friendships are very few and far between.
Yeah.
So I do think we do
Absolutely.
need to
And they're
talk more.
definitely,
And even if you can't talk,
yeah.
if you
And to
don't feel
be, I
comfortable,
think,
go on. Sorry, go on, go on.
oh, no, that's right. I was going to say, it can feel scary, I think, to be a bit vulnerable to start with. But once you kind of get that, sometimes I'll have been maybe holding something back, and then I'll share it with somebody and they'll say, "Oh, I'm so glad you said that, because I've
Yeah,
been feeling this
absolutely,
way." And it kind of
absolutely,
opens
absolutely,
the whole
absolutely.
conversation. Or like in my mum and baby groups, we'd have like the first week, everyone's always like, "Oh yeah, I'm absolutely fine. I'm absolutely fine." And then by week 2 or 3, somebody will go, "Actually, I've really been struggling with this or that or the other." And every single time somebody else in the group will be, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you
Yeah,
said
I
that,
felt that
because I
100%,
can't be the only
100%.
one."
I think I remember going out recently, and like somebody said something about um making a mess while they were in labor, like having a little accident, and like
Yeah,
the whole group bursting out laughing because everybody could relate. And it's like, it's those moments, isn't it, where you're like, most people are, "Oh yeah, I had a fine labor, everything's fine, yeah, yeah." Like, and then, but that moment when everyone just burst out laughing, and it was just that whole thing, like, I know, like, I know. And it's just those times when you're like, actually, we've got, yeah, it's when one person opens up, it encourages other people to open up. And sometimes it is just having that courage to make that first step, or just to go to that exercise class and not feel that anybody's going to be, that you don't have to do step 1, step 2, step 3 before you go. You just need to go, and just kind of,
yeah,
nobody's looking at you, but you can give as much or as little as you want to. But it can be a great way to kind of get support, and to find common ground with people.
absolutely. And even
Hmm.
if it feels like too much of a step to go like in person, people, I know you do amazing online classes, and you can take that first step to join up
Absolutely.
online, get a
I
bit of
think it
confidence.
helps for people with time restrictions a lot of the time. So
Yeah,
people that have got like, and living where I live in Bronant, so it's too far to get to a gym or get to a back, or it might
yeah,
be, I've only got 40 minutes. So I've got to take the kids here, and I've got 40 minutes. I can't get to that class that she's doing in town, but I can get to one that she's doing online. So
yeah,
it sometimes it can be a hybrid, so that some people might do some online and some in person. it varies on the individual, but I definitely get that sometimes that face-to-face interaction is massively important, and talking and starting conversations and talking about how we feel rather than just shutting them down.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I think there is it feels like a bit of a movement at the moment also, doesn't it? To kind of help really to bring those conversations out into the
absolutely.
open, and to, get rid of the shame around things. And I think, is it Brené Brown's got that really nice quote, which is like, shame dies when stories are told in safe spaces,
Yeah,
about that feeling, when you've been feeling shameful about something and you share it and it's witnessed and you are supported by
yeah,
that one person or by that group, it can just shift things for you
absolutely.
exponentially, I think.
Absolutely. And like for me, I go to church. That's very much a private thing for me. I don't really talk about religion because I think religion is something that can get very much kind of pushed onto people and talked about. And for me, it's very much a private thing. It's something that just gives me spirituality, really. And it just
Yeah.
helps me to be a better Beth. So just like exercise for me helps me to be a better, I'm a more relaxed mum. I'm a less stressy mum. I'm a better, more relaxed wife. I'm more productive. It helps my mental health, all these kind of things. So I think, it could just be that mindfulness of being in yoga, or it could just be, some meditation, some spirituality, going and listening. And I saw one of your last classes, and it was I think with like some panpipes or some, correct me,
Oh, the hang drum,
hand
yeah.
hand drum. Yeah. So I think, it could be whatever it might be, like having something to just kind of help you spiritually and help you, as well as not just focus on the aesthetics. Because I think sometimes if we, and this is the one thing, and I know you've got to go now, but it's a lot of people think that if we make this happy, if we make this strong, and we focus on looking a certain way, that's going to make me happy. And I'm going to tell you that it's not. That it
Yeah,
doesn't matter. How it comes. Happiness comes from your actions and the things that you do, and the acceptance you have of yourself, not by how big your muscles are or how strong you are. It's, the strength is great, but it comes that from accepting the decisions you make, the choices you make, and having that support around you, allowing people in.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like an inside job, isn't it? And I think
yeah,
it
and then
from that
that all kind of
inside
comes.
out.
Yeah,
Sorry, British hammering on the door,
I like.
lovely. I
I will
have
let
to.
you go. Thank you so much for your time.
That was really nice to chat. I really enjoyed that.
I really enjoyed it. Enjoy tonight.
You
Enjoy the
too.
sweeties. They're going to stick to your teeth.
See you
Adios.
soon.
Bye.
Bye.